Alys Rivers has been tormenting Daemon Targaryen in his nightmares and the waking world, forcing him to confront his shame and regrets in his life, failing Rhaenyra, being jealous of her, the murder of Prince Jaehaerys, and seeking the approval of a mother he never knew. Alys has been using his weirwood bed and taking these raw emotions and twisting them to manipulate the rogue prince. One question that has come up numerous times in my videos and conversations about Alys is she even real, or is she another ghost or hallucination of the cursed fortress of Harrenhal, plaguing Daemon's mind? To start off with, let's go over why do people even think Alys isn't real and a ghost or a phantom of Daemon's mind. For one thing, in all of Daemon's scenes in Harrenhal with Alys, he is the only person that has ever spoken to her. Not a single word has been uttered to the Woods Witch and Greenseer of Harrenhal by her family, the servants, anybody. Even at the meal scene with the goose and duck that Daemon notably doesn't want, Alys is there grabbing food off the table like a buffet and no one acknowledges or talks to her. That's a bit odd. Combined with the whole Overlook Hotel Shining vibe that Daemon has been experiencing in the maze-like hallways, this is very curious storytelling choices and leads you to wonder, why is this happening? Certainly the secret ghost twist has been employed in horror shows like American Horror Story, as well as The Haunting of Hill House, where some characters are ghosts pretending to be alive. There's also been this notorious scene where, after Alys was speaking with Daemon alone, Simon Strong walks up to deliver the news about the Blackwood quote-unquote victory over the Brackens. As he does so, Alys walks behind him and seemingly disappears into the ether behind the Castellan. It makes sense to wonder. Daemon is seeing so many things in people that aren't really there, including the first time he met Alys in her witchy workshop. He goes right from chasing himself dressed as Aemon into talking to Alys with no break in between. Maybe she is a ghost, and maybe, yeah, she did disappear like the other hallucinations. And lastly, Alys seems to know what Daemon is dreaming about and then talking to him about the horrors he's seeing in his weirwood bed. I'm of the opinion this means she's one of the legendary Greenseers who can invade sleeping minds and scramble them like eggs, allowing her to do this. However, a plausible alternative explanation is that she knows these things because she's an extension of his mind, of these dreams and subconscious. So that's the case for Ghost Alys. And now I'm going to go ahead and tell you why she is not a ghost, she is real. Just to start off with some hot book knowledge here, Alys is definitely a real person and not a dream. There's multiple historical accounts at the time and many characters who see and interact with her. She eventually earns the nickname the Witch Queen of Harrenhal in her future. So yeah, she's real, she's not a ghost, but let's go beyond that simple answer and engage with it within House of the Dragon. Part about her not being interacted with at all during these scenes is not true. It is true that no one else has spoken to her, but they have looked at her and reacted. When Daemon arrives in Harrenhal and claims the castle, all the Strongs and their servants drop to their knees and swear fealty to Rhaenyra. However, Alys does not bend her knee while everyone else does so. If you watch closely, you'll see that Simon Strong's sons look over to see who is the one that is refusing to bend the knee, and then quickly avert their gaze when they realize it's Alys. And as for the scene where Alys disappears behind Simon, as he walks by her, he looks directly at her in confusion, then continues past her without a word. So she is being seen by the Strongs and servants, so why aren't they saying anything to her? One explanation is that the people of Harrenhal know Alys well enough to fear her. Larys Strong has said he is well aware of the dark magics and supernatural forces that can drive people to madness within Harrenhal, aka Alys Rivers. He and Daemon cannot be the only ones that have noticed that the Woods Witch and supposed bastard of House Strong has the ability to turn people to madness with her Greenseer powers and using the weirwoods. The rest of the household learned by experience or by reputation that they are much better off not speaking to Alys at all and letting her do whatever she wants. What she has done to Daemon thus far, she could plausibly do to anybody. This is supported in that opening scene when the other Strongs look at her standing and quickly look away, as well as her eating off the Lord's table like it's a buffet and walking off with a to-go plate certainly points in that direction. I talked about in my last video how odd it is to have a Woods Witch in a castle at all. In this society, that behavior would not normally be tolerated. That she is allowed to do basically whatever she wants within Harrenhal, despite the major prejudices against her, and that no one can meet her gaze or orders her around suggests abject fear of Alys. Just let Alys do whatever she's gonna do, don't even talk to her, and keep your head down rather than risk the witch's wrath. Another possibility to consider is that the other people in Harrenhal may see Alys very differently from Daemon. In my Alys Rivers video, I compared her to Melisandre, how both characters may be much older than they appear and possibly wear magical disguises like glamours. Perhaps for Daemon, she looks like a woman in her 30s, but to everyone else, maybe something like Melisandre's true form. Certainly Daemon's mind is open to magical suggestions at the moment. Maybe Alys has some way of replicating that effect. And as for the sudden disappearance of Alys Rivers behind Simon Strong, I think this is more a trick of the camera angles and the reverse shot conversation they use for Daemon and Simon. And shout out to the radiant Joanna Robinson and Mallory Rubin of the House of R podcast and Ringiverse YouTube channel for noticing this camera work angle as an explanation. After Simon looks at Alys and she begins to walk away, he begins walking towards the camera, filling up more of the frame as he goes until Alys is crowded out of the shot. While Simon is talking, she is just simply behind him because of the camera angle. Presumably, she's hanging around to listen in what Simon has to say, as well as Daemon after their little chat about the virtues of war crime. There's also this reverse shot here while Daemon is speaking, and is during this time that Alys could have simply walked away. So no, she didn't disappear into nothingness. She's either eavesdropping or walking away while the camera was pointed at Matt Smith. However, I do believe people are correct to wonder this. The show is specifically trying to encourage in the minds of the viewers questions about reality. They're making heavy references during this Daemon and Harrenhal plotline to numerous horror and ghost stories. They're deliberately isolating Alys and making you question what is dream and what is reality by giving few visual anchors for the real world. No dreamy coloring of the scenes, no odd music, off-putting camera angles to make it obvious when it's a dream. The scene where Daemon saw Lena as a serving woman and later standing next to him introduces the idea that people you are seeing could be somebody else or not there at all. They want you to question who or what Alys is. How is she doing this? How much of what you're seeing is real or nightmare? It's deliberately unsettling and confusing, which is a tool they're using to get us inside Daemon's mind to feel how he is feeling. The main A Song of Ice and Fire books are done in a POV structure, allowing us to read the private thoughts of characters that they would never voice to anybody else. Adapting that structure to the screen was a major challenge for Game of Thrones, as many characters like Jon Snow, Tyrion Lannister, and Samwell Tarly tend to hold back what they really think, making it challenging to bring out those rich inner lives. Game of Thrones largely punted on adapting the POV structure as a result, and instead of having some kind of voiceover, they settled for having characters speak their minds a little bit more often. Fire and Blood is a similar but different challenge, with the story being told like a history book with a fictional maester narrating events that he read about from more than 100-year-old accounts with dubious credibility. The result of this is that the characters in Fire and Blood have almost none of their true inner thoughts and private moments being told to the reader, and left to us to imagine what they might be like in between speculation from the fictional author Gildan. Hot D has been filling in those private moments and the reality between these Wikipedia entries. Still, they've been limited by only showing us what characters are willing to say and do out loud. Daemon's Nightmares in Harrenhal is the show attempting to give us a glimpse of what a POV inside Daemon's mind would really be like. What thoughts and impulses does he suppress? What secret desires lurk in his soul that he would never admit to? Through these dreams, we get to see and hear them exactly as he does without being filtered through his conscious choices. The intrusive thoughts of an incredibly morally gray character like Daemon being laid out before us. The duality of someone that would curse his brother for being a terrible king while also picking up his crown for him in an act of tenderness. Someone who go to war for Rhaenyra and her claim, cut off heads for insulting her and her children while also lashing out at her for having what he cannot have in that crown and Viserys' trust. He's not one thing or another, just one thing. He's a complete person full of contradictions, and the unsettling nature of Alys and Harrenhal is meant to elevate that and invite you into the chaos of Daemon's mind. After all, he's called the Rogue Prince, not the Good Prince or the Bad Prince. Also, as an aside, as far as the realm and history books know, Daemon hasn't really done anything to show disloyalty to Rhaenyra except for the Strongs and Alys knowing he's talking a little bit of nonsense, and the Black Council knowing that he's been leaving Rhaenyra on red. For now, it's just talk and the ramblings of a prince who is having trouble sleeping. And what we're seeing from him is not meant to represent Daemon at his best. These scenes are showing us very plainly his mental state is rapidly deteriorating from the mysterious red drinks, lack of sleep, lack of food, frustration, and of course Alys turning every emotion he has to its extreme during what little sleep he is actually getting. What he's been saying and doing have elements to truth in them, as intrusive thoughts he normally suppresses being manipulated into the surface by Alys. His behavior in Harrenhal cannot be separated from the very real magical attacks on his mind. Once he's left the castle and Alys's influence, highly likely that Daemon will stop calling himself king and declaring his intention of claiming King's Landing for himself. Although he will be changed by these experiences for sure, as they have forced him to confront the parts of his soul that he is most troubled and ashamed of. Alys has opened Pandora's box in Daemon's mind. Much like us, Daemon is wondering if Alys is real or hallucination. He's wondering why no one else is talking to her. He's wondering why she seems to know him much better than most people in his life. He's wondering, are these dreams he's experiencing coming from himself or the weirwood spirit still haunting the grounds? That's a large part of the fun of these sequences. You're being invited into the ghost story that Daemon is experiencing rather than just being an objective observer. And that's what viewers are picking up on when they are wondering if Alys is real, as well as the uncertainty of Alys's influence. So in a sense, yes, Daemon is being haunted by ghosts. It's just that Alys isn't one of them, more that she's the queen of ghosts using them like puppets to manipulate Daemon. Alys hasn't revealed yet what game she was playing with the rogue prince, but there is a game being played. Her own Jack Torrance wielding an axe in the haunted halls of the castle Alys Rivers calls home. She is very real, and that should make her even scarier for what else she can do going forwards. The Witch Queen is just getting started. Thanks for watching.